Come explore one of the most improbable landscapes in all of North America with me. Over the next 15 minutes, we will climb the tallest sand dunes on the entire continent, dunes that rise more than 700 feet against a wall of snow-capped mountains. We will learn how an ocean of sand ended up stranded in the middle of the Colorado high country, walk the edge of a stream that flows in waves, and trace the deep human story of this valley. This is Great Sand Dunes National Park, and it looks like nowhere else on Earth. First, where are we? This is southern Colorado, in the vast flat bowl of the San Luis Valley, one of the largest high mountain valleys in the world. The valley floor sits around 7,500 feet above sea level, ringed by mountains on every side. Along its eastern edge, right where the flatland slams into a towering range, the wind has piled up an enormous field of sand. That improbable meeting of desert and alpine peak is the park we are about to explore. Nothing quite prepares you for the first sight of it. You are driving across open grassland and sagebrush flats, the kind of scenery you might expect in the high desert, when suddenly this great golden mass swells up on the horizon. From a distance, it can look like a mirage or a bank of storm clouds sitting on the ground. Only as you get closer does your brain accept what it is seeing. That is not a shadow on the mountains. That is pure sand, and it is gigantic. These are the tallest dunes in North America. The classic giant here is called Star Dune, and for years it held the crown, rising about 741 feet from base to summit. Then in 2019, surveyors measured a neighbor now called Hidden Dune at 742 feet, just barely taller. Either way, you are looking at a mountain of sand as tall as a 60-story building. Watch the tiny specks of people near the crest, and the true scale finally lands. And here is the contrast that makes this place unforgettable. Behind the warm tan dunes rise the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, jagged peaks that climb above 13,000 feet and hold snow late into the summer. Desert and alpine, sand and stone, heat and cold, all stacked into a single view. In one glance, you can take in a landscape that looks like the Sahara pressed up against the Rocky Mountains. There are very few places on the planet where those two worlds meet like this. The mountains themselves have a name full of drama, the Sangre de Cristo, Spanish for the blood of Christ, said to be inspired by the deep red glow the peaks take on at sunrise and sunset. This is one of the highest and steepest ranges in the Rockies, and it plays a starring role in our story. Because without these mountains standing exactly where they do, catching the wind and trapping the sand, there would be no great dunes here at all. The peaks did not just frame the dunes, they built them. So how does an ocean of sand end up here? The story begins with the whole valley floor, which for millions of years collected sand and sediment washed down from the surrounding mountains. Powerful winds sweep across that flat valley from the southwest, picking up loose grains and carrying them eastward. When the wind hits the steep wall of the Sangre de Cristo, it slows and rises, and it drops its load of sand right at the base of the peaks. Grain by grain, over tens of thousands of years, that sand piled into these mountains of dune. Look closely at the surface, and you can watch the process still happening. The whole dune field is stitched with delicate ripples, endlessly rearranged by the breeze. The prevailing winds push the sand toward the mountains, but strong storm winds blowing back down from the peaks shove it the other way. That constant push and pull from opposing directions is why these dunes grew so tall and so steep instead of marching off across the land. They are essentially held in place by a tug of war of wind. There is one more ingredient in the recipe: water. Scientists believe much of this sand came from an enormous ancient lake that once filled the San Luis Valley, a body of water known as Lake Alamosa. Over time, the climate dried and the lake vanished, leaving behind vast sheets of sand and sediment across the valley floor. That old lakebed became the raw supply, the sand factory, that the wind has been feeding into the dunes ever since. A lake that dried up long ago is the reason these dunes exist today. Because sand is still arriving and still being recycled, this is a living, breathing dune field. Streams flowing down from the mountains carry sand back around the edges and drop it where the wind can pick it up and pile it high again. It is a giant natural loop, wind and water endlessly moving the same grains in a circle. The overall shape of the dunes has stayed remarkably stable for a very long time, even as every single grain within them keeps shifting. Stability built entirely out of motion. That water plays one more magical role. Along the eastern foot of the dunes runs Medano Creek, a shallow, seasonal stream fed by mountain snowmelt. In late spring and early summer, it flows in a wide, sandy sheet right at the base of the tallest dunes, creating what feels like a beach in the middle of the mountains. Families wade and splash here at 8,000 feet of elevation, with sand dunes on one side and snowy peaks on the other. It is one of the most surreal beach scenes you will ever find. And Medano Creek does something almost no other stream on Earth can do. It flows in waves. Because the creek is pure, shifting sand, little underwater ridges build up and then collapse, releasing the water in rhythmic pulses. The result is called surge flow, gentle waves that roll down the sandy channel every 20 seconds or so, as if the desert had its own tiny tide. In a good snow year, those surges can be knee-high. It is a phenomenon found in only a small handful of places anywhere in the world. It is tempting to think of this as just a pile of sand, but the park protects a whole stack of worlds layered on top of each other. Climb from the valley floor to the highest peaks, and you pass through grasslands, wetlands, and the dunes themselves, then up into forests of pine and aspen, and finally onto cold alpine tundra above the trees. In a single park, you can travel from a desert-like dune field to the top of a 13,000-foot mountain. That range of life is a huge part of why this place is protected. Climbing the dunes is a workout unlike any other. There is no trail because the trail would blow away. You simply pick a ridgeline and start walking up, and for every 2 steps forward, the soft sand slides you half a step back. Reaching the high dunes can take hours, and the sand underfoot can heat up to well over 150 degrees on a summer afternoon. But standing on a knife-edge crest, with the whole valley spread out below, is worth every burning step. And of course, what goes up gets to come down the fun way. Sandboarding and sand sledding are the signature thrill here. People haul specially waxed boards and sleds to the top and carve their way down the steep faces, the same idea as snowboarding, just on a warm mountain of sand under a bright desert sun. It is a genuinely strange delight, sliding down a dune in a t-shirt with snowy peaks watching over your shoulder. Few national parks let you play quite like this one. As harsh as it looks, the sand is alive. This dune field is home to creatures found nowhere else on the entire planet. The great sand dunes tiger beetle, for example, is a tiny predator that lives only in these grains, perfectly adapted to hunt and burrow in the shifting sand. Several kinds of insects here are what scientists call endemic, meaning this one dune field is their whole world. A place that seems too extreme for anything to survive turns out to be a cradle for life that exists absolutely nowhere else. People have known and valued this valley for a very long time. Archaeologists have found evidence of human presence in this region reaching back more than 10,000 years to the hunters who followed great herds across the valley at the end of the last ice age. For countless generations since, this has been a gathering place, a hunting ground, and a sacred landscape. The dunes were not an empty curiosity waiting to be discovered. They sat at the heart of a homeland that was already ancient. This high country is, above all, the homeland of the Ute people, who have lived in these mountains and valleys since long before written history. The Jicarilla, Apache, and other nations also carried deep ties to this valley and these peaks. To the people who lived here, the dunes and the surrounding mountains held meaning far beyond scenery, woven into story, ceremony, and a way of life shaped across thousands of years. We walk this landscape today as guests in a place that has been someone else's home for a very, very long time. The first written descriptions from outside came in the winter of 1807, when a United States Army expedition led by Lieutenant Zebulon Pike crossed into this valley. Struggling through deep snow and bitter cold, Pike and his men recorded the strange sight of sand hills glittering against the mountains, comparing the surface to a sea in a storm. They were, at that moment, trespassing on land that still belonged to Spain. Their reports helped carry the story of this astonishing place out into a wider world. Through the 1800s, this valley became a meeting ground of cultures. Hispano settlers moving north from what is now New Mexico founded some of the oldest towns in Colorado here, building adobe villages, digging community irrigation ditches, and farming the valley floor in the shadow of the dunes. Their descendants still live and ranch across the San Luis Valley today. The story of this place is a layering of peoples, indigenous, Hispano, and later American, each shaped by the same mountains, the same wind, and the same restless sand. By the early 1900s, the dunes faced a very real threat. There were schemes to haul the sand away for concrete, and even proposals to mine the grains for the gold dust washed down from the mountains. Local residents, and especially a determined group of women from the nearby town of Monte Vista, campaigned hard to protect the dunes forever. Their effort worked. In 1932, President Herbert Hoover set the land aside as Great Sand Dunes National Monument, guarding it from the shovels and the mining claims. For decades, the monument protected the dunes themselves, but not the wider web of mountains, streams, and grasslands that create them. So at the turn of the millennium, a broad coalition worked to protect the whole system. Congress passed an act in the year 2000, and in 2004, the site was formally established as Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve. That change meant protecting not just the sand, but the wind, the water, and the mountains, the entire machine that keeps the dunes alive. Beyond the sand, the park opens into wild country most visitors never see. A rugged primitive road climbs from the dunes up toward Medano Pass, threading through pinyon and juniper woodland into the mountains. It is a slow, sandy, four-wheel drive adventure that trades the open dune field for shady forest and the sound of the creek. Rolling through here, you feel the park change character around you, from a desert of sand to a green mountain world, all within the same protected boundary. Up in these foothills, the air cools and the scenery softens. Ancient twisted junipers cling to the slopes, deer move through the sage, and the great peaks loom close overhead. This is the transition zone, the seam where the flat valley finally gives way to the high Sangre de Cristo. Somewhere on these slopes, the melting snow gathers into the very streams that feed Medano Creek and recycle the sand below. Everything in this park connects, the peaks to the water, to the wind, to the dunes. When the sun goes down, the park reveals a final wonder. Far from any big city, ringed by mountains that block the light, Great Sand Dunes has some of the darkest, clearest night skies in the country, and it is recognized as an official international dark sky park. On a moonless night, the Milky Way arches directly over the dunes, and the pale sand seems to glow faintly under the stars. The same emptiness that makes this landscape feel so vast by day turns it into a planetarium by night. Come back to the dunes one more time and simply take in the scale. Those distant figures inching across the sand are grown adults, and they look like nothing against the ridgelines. It is humbling in the best way. Standing out here, you feel the enormous forces that built this place, the 10,000 years of wind, the vanished lake, the patient mountains, all still at work. We are brief visitors walking across something that has been shaped over a span of time our minds can barely hold. This is what I love about a place like Great Sand Dunes. It refuses to make sense at first glance, and then layer by layer, it tells you exactly how it came to be. Sand born from an ancient lake, lifted by the wind, and caught forever against the mountains. Streams that flow in waves. Life that survives where nothing should. A homeland thousands of years deep. It is a reminder that the strangest landscapes are often the ones with the richest stories to tell. Thank you for exploring Great Sand Dunes National Park with me, from the tallest dunes in North America to the snowy peaks and the surging creek at their feet. If this is the kind of place you love to experience, subscribe and come along, because there is a whole world of parks, mountains, and wild landscapes still waiting ahead of us, and we are exploring it together. Until the next one, keep wandering and keep looking closely at the world.